The internet is dead and we are the killers.
Uh-oh.
Truth doesn't really exist online anymore. Bots
The
have
e-girl
swamped
one.
social media with misinformation, and the web pages we serve today
Not to mention Astro.
even YouTube is flooded with channels
Yep.
completely run
You know what's really funny about that is I bet in the comment section for this video there are bots that are copy pasting real humans' comments about bots.
every single this activity. But how exactly did we get here, and is it too late to revive it?
I think people look to get more out of social media than what they should look to get out of it. I like social media, and I enjoy going on social media. It's not a problem to me.
The internet started as universities, the University of California and Stanford. Simple messages could be communicated between them, but it was nothing like what we have Then everything changed with the creation of the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web was a simple concept. It was a network of hypertext documents accessed with a program called a browser.
A lot of people were like worried about this whenever it was coming out. Like I remember back like whenever the internet was first like catching on. They were like, yeah, I don't know if this is I remember not having but like text
Power could be put back in the hands of the people. The borders of regulation and nationalism would be transcended, creating a new age of society.
And I think this, for the most part, has happened. I think that everybody talks about, like, extremism that's created online, but extremism, by definition, is very small percentage. I think in general, the internet has been a massive positive force for the world. And it's made a lot of people's lives really better. And there's a few mentally ill teenagers on social media that take their lives because a lot of other people get a tremendous amount of enrichment from the internet.
Everyone can become their own publisher,
Yep.
something that wasn't possible before. There was only one problem: greed. As the years turned to decades, the internet followed a familiar path, the same one almost every other important technological innovation did before and will keep doing. Dozens of internet service providers had emerged, but they slowly began merging into just a few big companies, leaving consumers with no real choice. Just like with radio a century earlier, thousands of different companies were slowly bought or priced out of the market. This was true for both the infrastructure and the web real estate.
Yeah, this happened with social media now.
2001, when the dot-com bubble popped, the top 10 websites made up 31% of page views in the United States. And by 2006, that number climbed to 40% and then 75% in 2010. At the same time, iPhones and smart devices changed our relationship with the internet. Browsing the World Wide Web became less common as people shifted to semi-closed applications, and in 2010, these applications accounted for less than a quarter of internet traffic.
It's actually kind of crazy to think about how big having smartphones was for the internet. Because like I know that like for my YouTube analytics, a lot of people watch on mobile. Like it's not a majority of people, but it's like sometimes like 30%, 40% of people watch on mobile. It's massive.
Today, it's 90%.
Yeah.
Keeping users inside the confines of applications made advertising more effective. Having created an entirely new ecosystem, Apple was on its way to becoming one of the biggest companies in the world thanks to this closed system. After the dot-com bubble popped, only 5 tech companies were able to survive and thrive: Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft. The big 5 are now virtually impossible to avoid on the internet, whether through advertising, e-commerce, or the cloud computing hosts that websites depend on.
That's
This
actually
tech-
one thing that people don't talk about because it's not really it's more of a business. But you look at Microsoft's revenue, or you look at Amazon's revenue, it's their web hosting services. Like AWS, like so for example, Amazon will never ban Kick because that would mean that Amazon could defund or like stop providing service to a competitor. Amazon would rather lose Twitch entirely than lose AWS. That's why they will never stop providing service to Kick. They kind of have to.
Dominance has permanently changed our society. And as these industry giants become big focus on consumers that make artificial intelligence the last vestiges of what the internet proposed. Actually,
I also think that So that's one of the big reasons why AI is being pushed so hard, is because it's following the trend of like what investors and what people are trying to make money from. Loot box investments, yeah, but like what is venture capital like? Right? You take 100 shots, you get one, but that shot goes to the moon, and you make all the money back to the other ones, and then you write the money you lost off of 99 shots off on your taxes. So there you go. It's also because of investment and trying to perceive value, trying to have the company have a perception of value. Excuse me.
nearly 5.5 billion people have access to the internet, and the average user spends 6 hours a day online. It's by far the world's
That's fucking insane, by the way. 6 hours a day online average for a person? That's crazy. Because like if you think about working for 8 hours, internet for 6 hours, sleeping for 8 hours, so they only spend 2 hours a day off the internet? That's fucking insane.
biggest market, and unfortunately, the
Yeah,
most
for me, it's
valuable
double that.
commodity in that market is your attention. Views, likes, and reviews are worth their weight in gold. And this is a huge shame praise for a tiered system, ripe for exploitation. Creating a successful channel or social media profile can be a lucrative long-term investment. With a few clicks and dollars, anyone can buy thousands of Spotify streams, Instagram likes, or YouTube views. How can companies offer these services? Well, employing thousands of people to click on...
I do think that like a lot of the people that bought views, like on Twitch for example, there are some people that have faked it until they made it, but that's a survivorship bias. The majority of people that view bot don't get any payoff and nobody ever respects them and everybody thinks that they're a joke. Like, and that's the same with a lot of content creators.
Those spending would be far too expensive. Instead, those wallets automated and solve. When set on target, they artificially post, boosting their rankings and attention. Websites do their best to scrub bots out. It's almost impossible to remove
Bots everywhere. I mean, there's always going to be bots.
Over the last 6 years, Meta deactivated over 27 billion fake accounts. Some believe it's already too late to take action against bots. I think we may have reached a dark tipping point. First posted in 2019, the Dead Internet Theory proposes that we're living in a dystopian ghost town populated by similar characters. According
Well,
to
the dead internet theory is just like the Truman Show, but on the internet, right? Like, but like everybody there, instead of being a paid actor, is like a robot. Like, I understand what it is now. I think that there are cases where this becomes true, but not necessarily. And I think also you can't stop bots because there's like money to it. Anytime that somebody can make money, you're never going to be able to get rid of it completely. It's just about reducing the negative impact that it has. Yeah, I'm already AI. Yeah, look at me.
in theory, something changed around 2016. The internet had become so saturated by automated content that having a genuine human-to-human interaction was rare if not impossible. Surfing the web was like driving alone and only passing automated vehicles on the road.
Yeah.
The theory's original poster admitted that it sounded conspiratorial, but they were certain of a feeling that something was distinctly lacking. There was
and it also goes farther because, like you say, dead internet theory, that's one way to look at it, but it's also a feeling of inauthenticity that is promoted by everybody on the internet. Like a really good example of this is if you look at gaming journalism, there's never a true diversity of thought. There's always like the right opinion to have, and then inside of that right opinion, you have people that are like maybe deviating a little bit, but you don't really have a diversity of thought. And I think that that's almost even worse than the dead internet theory, because whenever you have people that are behaving like bots, that's worse than bots. Like, that's what I think. Yeah, the point was, it's like there's no real window of like opinions. Like this is the amount of opinions that like people can have, right? And that people do have, and this is the amount of opinions that's like represented in media. I'll be right back. Anyway, I think that's what happens a lot, is because there's so much commercialization of the internet, you don't have a real diversity of thought that actually exists. That's why, like, for example, I think Twitter's so good, because anybody can go on Twitter and say whatever they want, and they're not beholden to, like, advertisers. And it's a lot different than the other websites. Let's just say that.
Putting this online had been in the early 2000s. Images, conversations, and memes all began to resemble one another, while forms that were once exciting now felt sanitized. This was also easy when you all carefully curated to keep it culture, power, most of all, to make sure that the general population stays in line.
The amount of cultural control that social media companies exercise, I think, is way overbearing. It's massively overbearing.
Dead internet theory remained on the fringes until 2022, when a grand unveiling brought the issue of bots to global attention. On November 30th, 2022, the world was introduced to ChatGPT. Built on a large language model that processes gigantic datasets and forms relationships between ideas, it is the most advanced form of artificial intelligence ever to exist. For decades, computers have been much more powerful than humans at specific tasks, like chess or mathematical calculation. The question that divided computer scientists and philosophers was whether or not computers could ever transition into a kind of general intelligence. Mathematician Alan Turing asked this question in 1950. He developed the Turing test as a way to determine whether a machine was thinking. The test was simple. For a computer to pass, it has to fool a human into thinking they're talking with another human. Last year,
That's easy as fuck. Like, you can have plenty of dumbass people think they're talking to a real person who's a robot. Yeah, I mean, that's easy as hell. People are dumb as fuck. Like, yeah. They did it, yeah, exactly.
We had officially brought a machine to life, and suddenly the dead internet theory was not just a conspiracy, but like the future. If we can't distinguish between humans and AI anymore, who can we trust?
That's a good thing, by the way. I think that there is a huge issue on the internet with people reading things or hearing things that they already agree with and then just going with it. Like this whole idea that, like, oh yeah, like, well, what happened? What if you can't trust what you're reading? Good, you never should have. Yeah, welcome to how it's always been.
Service. 49.6% of all internet traffic comes from
that with AI. It's pure fucking code. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Other countries will do it. They'll create the better models. I'm very much not in with like the internet because I think that things will get worse on the internet in some ways, but I think that that is inevitable. Basically, yeah, I mean it is and it's not, right? It's very abstract if it's theft or not. I personally don't think that it's theft. I don't think so because you can take what somebody else says and say it yourself. So it's like if a human being did this, would it be theft? No. Well, then it's not theft. If a human can do it, the bot's only automated. Yeah, exactly. I've never found an argument that convinced me.
not even known to those who designed them. Left at the mercy of pattern recognizing computers or videos and shit. Social media censorship and consumption-driven models. As long as
That's actually true. Yeah, the way that the algorithms work is probably an issue. Because I think that social media algorithms, like, it's very hard for me to say whether it should be illegal or not, and I think that it probably shouldn't be. It's just very bad that it's happening. But, like, a lot of social media algorithms, I think, are just programmed to make you mad or make you horny. Like, they're not programmed to, like, be accurate. They're not programmed to be beneficial. They're not made to enrich your life. It's just one of those two things. Yeah, like OnlyFans, right?
algorithms process data sets to profiles of you
I don't think that it's an issue is because those gatekeepers used to be human beings and people that work at recording studios, people that work at movie studios, and people that work at newspapers. And now, whenever the person is beholden to a machine, do I truly think the machine is less virtuous than a person? To be honest with you, the answer is no. I don't think so. And in fact, I think the opposite in most cases. I think that people can be worse than machines.
There's a reason for that.
And there's also there's a reason too why we're in this position. We are in this position right now as a direct reaction to people acting as gatekeepers and being too controlling, to being gatekeepers to information and gatekeepers to their own. That's the reason why we're here. This is like people that are complaining about there's no new games that come out. All of the games now are bad. What do you mean by that? You mean 40 games? Yeah, exactly. This is
People tend to want to know the direction of the show off to see this is not this game. This is
I don't like. I really think that it's unfair that people blame the internet for their own mental problems. I do. I think that there are always going to be things in society that people can abuse to make their own lives worse. I hate how people try to be like, oh, it's the internet that's making me depressed. Like, no, you're making yourself depressed by using the internet. Stop fucking doing it. It's so easy. And so, like, for me, I've never had this, like, weird issue. What about kids? They shouldn't be on the internet in general. Like, a kid shouldn't be able to make profiles on social media accounts. And parents should be accountable for keeping their kids off the internet in ways that are unsafe. I don't want to see everything on the internet sanitized because a 13-year-old might see it. I think parents need to do a better job parenting. That's like saying a bunch of things, oh, you can't have R-rated movies because there might be a kid that sees the movie. That's fucking stupid. No, just be a better parent and don't expect the world to baby-proof everything in the world because of you being lazy. It's crazy.
created by non-human forces. So is our culture still ours?
How old should it be though?
Are humans the ones giving the orders?
Legal
or
age
has
of consent.
technology become our master? The commercialization of the internet, the concentration of a handful.
Technology is not the master. It's not the master. Like assume that everybody. A lot of these problems would go away. Most of these problems are derived from scarcity of resources. It's not because of the internet or not. It's totally like the internet is just the way it manifests. I don't think this is anything that's unique with the internet. For example, movies and TV shows and I think that a lot of people, they look at the internet as some kind of like unique evil. I completely disagree. I think that TV, movies, and film, and probably even radio. Do you think the issue of scarcity will ever go away? I think it will go away because people will eventually transition to a JPEG 5 million times, right? So that's what will happen in like the distant future. But until we get there, then yeah, obviously scarcity will be a really big issue. TV didn't turn out to be able to make a one generation video card. Yeah, but I guarantee you it's not before they move our strong so TV didn't actually see, this is the problem that people have, is this big thing, and like I see people in my chat all the time, they're like, we're the smart ones, kids are the dumb ones. No, we're not. No, they're not. They're just as stupid. They might be stupid about something different, but they're still stupid. It's not like this is anything that's fundamentally different. Everybody always, it's like, there's like fucking text of Socrates complaining that the younger generation is lazy and stupid. This has been going on since the beginning of time.
As the internet became a carefully constructed reality of all those negatives, not to the extent that the internet theory describes, but as artificial intelligence spreads through the internet, our sense of reality is being seriously shaken. So wake up and change course first to keep the internet, encourage to break away from it, acknowledge that current systems are broken, and that humanity is one of the awful. Even the videos we make and don't support us to make bigger, better projects, we just updated the picture. Everybody can get free access to our automated Discord server, where you can convert with the amateur community. Patrons can choose from different tiers of perks like discounts on hardware we have, free in the future, private Discord channels for voting on our video topics and idea pitching, shoutouts and video descriptions, and more perks to go. That will give us more experience with patrons. If you don't have the means, then please don't feel obligated in any way. Subscribing and watching our videos is more than enough support. But if you do have the means and want to support, then Patreon is the best way to do so. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching.
I think that this is actually a very good thing. And you're seeing this happen. Like, if you look at, for example, the way that he ended this video ended with a self-promotion for his monetization. This makes him less accountable to big brands. It makes him less focused on trying to make sure that he upholds like a status quo of like the right opinions to have, etc. And he can just go and say and think whatever he wants on his YouTube channel, and as long as he doesn't get banned, he can still have a direct audience that he's accountable to, and he can make content for them. So I think that's a good thing. It's a great thing. And overall, I think the internet has been a massive positive for humanity. It's been a tremendous positive, and I don't think it can even be overstated how good it's been. And I think that it's outrageous that we look at the most mentally ill, weirdest people in society, and we say, let's base everything off of them, and let's talk about how are they happy and how are they not happy. I don't care about them. Fuck them. Like, if they want to ruin their life over getting mad about a video game or getting mad about like some like fringe political issue on the internet, fuck them. Who cares? If you want to be a crazy, stupid idiot, go ahead. I think that's fine. Other people get a lot out of it. So, makes your own life worse. Rip Bozo. There you go. And I think that if you look at history, there's so many examples. Like, and people believe, and that's not something that sometimes respond to like a college basketball account talking about like who's gonna win. But you never see those people because they're not loud. It's probably one of the most annoying things that online journalism has cultivated. People think that they have like whatever reason that you want, and nobody has the right to take that away from you. It doesn't matter.
Yours truly, through our reviews of the British Stream Show, fostering hatred and bigotry. Keeping all that in mind, I have decided to reconsider and apologize. For nothing. Let's talk about episode 4. Oh my god. Previously on the Accolade.
You lost your mother's sister.
Carry them.
I wonder how many people actually watch this show. That's what I'm curious about. Like, obviously, a lot of people are probably gonna hate watch it. Oh, that's the power of one. Oh, that's the fan base of the show, of course. Yeah.
It's about sacrificing the power of yourself, the power of many, instead of the power of one.
this show is sickening. They really do think that, like that journalist article. Well, the problem is that, like, I think that this kind of issue, like, it has a lifespan because eventually people are, like, the company will lose so much money pandering to these kinds of people and creating this kind of content that it just won't happen. And I think it's already, like, it's been happening now for like 2 years, and like you're seeing a lot of shows correcting and not doing this anymore because of that.
There is the Acolyte episode 4.
Yeah.
A is filled with slow-moving establishing shots, multiple exposition scenes, characters slowly walking down hallways or slowly walking out the doors, characters talking to each other, not making much sense. We're gonna skip all that. It opens up with an establishing shot of Planet Gobbledygook, where we find Loki cooking and possibly investigating the lesbian space witches. Fight, right? Can't wait for that. This is followed by a scene with OSHA, who is coincidentally OSHA trained to put out fires in space. And who couldn't see this coming with a Disney Star Wars pride? Young girls crushing on each other after a roughly 4 minutes of screen time. Now, to be fair to the House of Mouse, they break up next episode and checks out Jedi Master Nepo does some cool bossing and says that he named the Green Fire Jedi Hal. This hologram nepotism is strong with this, but I'm not really sure how to figure it out.
This is how can it be so bad? The reason why it's so bad, let me explain why this happens. The reason why it happens is because all feedback and all criticism is labeled as sexist or racist. That's the reason why. So you have people that don't have any talent and don't have any skill in creating a good story that get protected from criticism because all criticism is effectively thrown away because it's considered some sort of like bad thing, and like nobody wants to say that thing. And this is the issue, right? Is that journalists don't want to say this in a lot of cases, and even people in like the industry don't want to say this because they're afraid of backlash. They're afraid of other people in the industry, you know, basically damaging their careers for going against what the narrative is. So Reddit IRL? Yeah, basically Reddit IRL. Exactly. So I think that's what's happening. 'Cause it's like, okay, this is like basically a majority female, you know, like minority demographic show that's, you know, it's like putting in the emphasis on like LGBT issues. Like, people nowadays, especially in like the, you know, this type of like entertainment industry, are really afraid to go against something like that because they're worried it could hurt their career. That's the reason why it's happening, I think. Because like I think it's like an emperor's new clothes like type situation where it's like everybody knows it's bad to some degree, but nobody wants to say it because they're afraid of the repercussions. That's really what's going on. Trying to be politically correct? Yeah, exactly. It's so bad they're using the feedback to fuel their bad ideas. Yeah.
Then Jedi Master Nepo spends the rest of the scene trying to figure out what the hell Jedi Master Soul is saying.
Ray's objective is not solely her own.
And despite absolutely nothing happening in this episode, Leslie Headland wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to once again take George Lucas's floor to Harvey's couch. Hey, remember the guy who said this in The Phantom Menace?
For a millennium.
This is Jedi Master Conehead, or
Wait, is it that's the same guy? How did his head get longer? In the first movie, his head was way longer.
Born at this time until, of course, Disney Star Wars decided to retroactively destroy more lore. And honestly, that's
I don't like. This is going to be maybe an unpopular opinion. Is that yeah, it's bad, but I don't really care about that as long as the story is good. I think that if you go back, there's probably already been a number of things in Star Wars that have been retconned ever since the first movie came out. So it's not really that big of a deal. But at a certain point, it's like one more fucking thing, right?
least of this scene's problems because apparently there's a deleted scene out there where after saying that the Sith have been extinct for a millennium, he follows that up with, except for that time we ran across a coven of lesbian space witches where two of them managed to conceive twin daughters without a father, who incidentally didn't look anything like their mother. I mean, where are the horns? But they were created by this thing called the Thread. So that really Dark Lord looking dude carrying around a red lightsaber who trained May couldn't possibly be a Sith. It's not important. Please keep in mind this is the same Disney Star Wars that's been...
This is sad, bro. Like, what the dude, I never watched this show, so like, I don't know a lot about this. I didn't realize it was this bad. I thought it was just like, oh yeah, you know, it's a Star Wars show, and it's like, it's not that good, and people are playing it up. Wow, this is crazy.
Been destroying George Lucas's lore for years and doing things like having Han Solo walking through a lightsaber, Luke Skywalker overdosing on the Force, Princess Leia died, not really sure how. Somehow, Emperor Palpatine returned, and their one-hit series is a repurposed Boba Fett and a repurposed Yoda. And when they got around to doing a Boba Fett series, they made him Boba Fett.
And I tried to cut back on the beers so the stomach wouldn't be out too far.
And then there's Obi-Wan Kenobi, whose sole purpose was to watch Luke Skywalker until Disney Star Wars got a hold of him, and he decides to fight twice to fight Darth
Clips of like him fighting Vader, and it was pretty cool. Okay.
In other words, on brand for modern Disney Lucasfilm. Anyway, Soul and Jedi Master Nepo devise a plan to once again use Osha as bait to draw out May. And this brings us to the poignant scene and all of the...
This is the big problem. Without some degree of dissonance there, because gender roles and the way that people act in society and their sex and everything, this does determine the way that they behave down to a chromosomal level. But for some reason, acknowledging this fact is like, I don't know, bad or something like that. And we have to pretend like everybody's the same. Well, we're obviously not all the same. Everybody looks different. Well, of course, men and women are different. Like, you think the only way they're different in every single physiological way, but somehow their brains are the exact same? What's the logic there? It doesn't make sense. So the issue is that you have these male-dominated franchises, like, for example, Blade. You're looking at Star Wars, things like this. And then it alienates the original audience because a lot of guys identify with Luke Skywalker because they're guys and Luke Skywalker is a guy. Yeah, Blade is unbeatable. Yeah, exactly, right? And that's the thing, is that Blade, well, like they're saying, like, oh, it's a female character that was actually supposed to be like the main character, Blade. Like, what is this? Why? Like, who do you think's watching Blade? It's a bunch of guys that like seeing this really cool dude with sunglasses that's a vampire kill other guys. What the fuck did you think this was? And so I think it's a failure. I would say it's an inability to read the audience. But the truth is that I think they know what the audience is, and they're actively trying to propagandize to them, and it's just not working. It's not working because you're not going to convince somebody that, you know, like, this is like, oh yeah, you actually are, you know, like, your life experience is the same as a woman. It's not. And again, like, I watched Star Wars whenever I was a kid, you know, like I had all the lightsabers, the things. Everybody that went out and we played with lightsabers, we were all guys. Star Wars was always a guy thing. Why are you making a story that's built around women and then being surprised whenever the Star Wars fan base doesn't like it? I mean, really, it's like making the Barbie movie and all about Ken. Well, you can't do, that's not what people are there for. So yes, and bad writing, well, obviously, but what I'm saying is that, like, I've noticed this a lot where, like, games that are, like, existing games will have, like, a prominent female protagonist, and, like, this is a game that, like, guys are playing. Guys want to play other guys, I think, in general, right? For relatability. I think absolutely. And you can look at live streaming as an example of this, right? Where, like, if you look at live streaming and you see how many people, the only reason why a guy wants to play a girl character is if the girl is hot. And I think that this is not a 100%, but I bet it's about 90. I do. I think it's about fucking 90%. Nobody wants to play an ugly chick in a video game. They'd rather just play a guy. That's like the worst case scenario. People are fine with, you know, like Underworld, okay? The movie. Great movie. People are okay with Tomb Raider, right? People like the movie. And why is that? Because Angelina Jolie is hot. So that's the reason. So you go back and you look at the characters and, like, the games that did well with a female lead, and all the characters are very high level of attractiveness. Samus, well, it doesn't matter what gender Samus is. She doesn't even talk. So it doesn't even, like, it's totally irrelevant. But, yeah, but also, I mean, Samus is, like, what, like a 6'2", like, blonde Amazon hot chick? Like, yeah, I think people are going to be okay with that, too. Yeah, so that's not even it. Let's see, what else is there? How many other examples? Like, you think about it. How many games that are really popular don't fit that example? Bayonetta, extremely fucking hot. Yeah, Alien, Ripley and Alien, that's true. Yeah, I think that's definitely an exception. That's I would say that is an exception. Nier Automata, yep, there it is. Blood Rain, yeah, it wasn't really that popular of a game. Ripley's badass, yeah, absolutely. And I like Lilith, yeah, Lilith is a good one. Stellar Blade, yep, there you go. So yeah, anyway, the point that I'm making is that I don't know what they were thinking making a Star Wars show, like, all about, like girls and, like, this like weird force, like, all this bullshit. Like, what were you thinking? Like, how would you think that, like, the audience for Star Wars would like that? It doesn't make sense.
Pronouns in live action Disney Star
yeah.
Wars.
Is he or they with us?
And the rest of the
I think the problem is that, like, whenever you see lines like that, it kills the immersion for the story, because it makes people think that the story is only being created as a vehicle to spread a message, and it undermines the escapism that a show like this can have. Like, whenever I see something like this, I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to take this seriously. And the problem also is that the issues that they're trying to push are these, like, super contemporary, very, like, relevant, hot button social issues versus, like, Lord of the Rings trying to push the idea of perseverance, you know, honor, dignity, good versus evil. So, like, it's the difference between, like, trying to push, like, this very, very contemporary, modern social issue versus being able to push, like, a, you know, like a core human virtue that's been considered good for all of time. Right? It's pop culture versus classical. Yeah, exactly. It's timeless. Yeah, it's going to be timeless. Like, I'm sorry, but they're never going to find, like, every one of these shows, not a single one of these male characters is a better male role model than Aragorn. And it's not even close. And the reason why is that I think that a lot of people don't really, they don't really understand what that means, right? I think that's the big issue. Everyone's pure acting. Yeah, exactly. Are they trying to be? Yeah, absolutely, I think that they are. They're trying to have, like, absolutely... If you really think that the things where they're trying to, like, add pronouns into a story like this, that they're not trying to avoid toxic masculinity and have good role models for, like, men, absolutely that's what they're trying to do. Of course they are.
27-minute episode is spent with the clueless Jedi in a race to get to Kelnaga, the Wookiee Jedi, before Asian
And it's like, here's another example, sorry. is that somebody brought up Samwise. So there's a little bit of backstory behind this, and so like, J.R.R. Tolkien was I forgot, like, he was Marine, a soldier. He was a soldier in World War I, like actual trench soldier in World War I, and he was an officer. Obviously, you know, he's very well educated, so he had an officer position. Still sucked, but not quite as much. He had a guy that worked underneath him who he felt that, like, this guy was like the pinnacle of what a man should be. He had every good instinct, every good virtue, just totally this great, amazing person. And Tolkien felt like almost like inferior in this other person's presence, right? So, not inferior, but like he felt lacking, you know, in some cases, based off of how virtuous this other person was. And so Samwise Gamgee was built off of that character. But the difference is that the virtue of a noble worker and a man who is just trying to go about his daily life and do the right thing no matter what is so much more timeless than trying to make like a little one-liner that pays credence to a current social issue. Like, somebody can go back, like, for example, in like 100 years, why would somebody's going to think, why are they saying, you know, he or they, right? Like, what is this? It's not going to make sense. There's not going to be any resonance with that. But whenever you listen, like in 100 years, people will be able to watch Lord of the Rings and think Samwise is just as much of a pimp as they do now. That's the difference. Is that it's just so, it's so contemporary and fleeting. It's timeless. Yeah, it's timeless. He did have a lot of kids. He did. Was it like 9 kids or something like that? It's actually what Tolkien was talking about with applicability versus allegory. Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that, like, obviously people in their real life get inspiration for their stories.
Or in May. Then we get a
13
heel
in the
turn
books.
that might give you whiplash.
Jesus.
May is good now. You heard me right.
I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to kill the Jedi without a record. I don't need to keep this deal. Osha being alive changes everything. My loyalty is to Osha, not your master. What I'm going to do is surrender myself to Kanaka and then turn myself into the Jedi.
Gotta be fucking kidding.
And this shouldn't surprise anyone. Nobody thought that diverse female antagonist was actually going to be evil. Of course she's going to be oppressed somehow, and her actions will be justified, even being responsible for the death of 2 Jedi.
Down with the patriarchy.
Leave it to a Disney Star Wars Gen Z villain to give up on revenge because it's hard. This brings us to Kelnaka, the Jedi Wookiee, arguably the most compelling thing about this series. It would have been awesome to see him fight, right? Well, he dies off screen. And what was the reason?
I think also another issue is that a lot of these characters don't actually... I think that there's a lot of, like, there's a lot of, like, social baggage of having a character that's a minority doing bad things in a show. Because, like, if you have a character that's a minority doing bad things, people say that it's caricaturing that minority, or it's, like, demonizing those minorities. So what I think ends up happening is that, like, in cases where it's, especially if it's like a female, like, minority, they don't want to attribute any bad attributes to that person because they're worried that people will view that as like some sort of messaging of what this person thinks about real life. Like, have you guys noticed this a lot? Who cares? It's not real life. Well, and this is a big problem that, like, a lot of Western media has. A big issue that I think a lot of Western media has is that every single type of media has to push a message forward, and if it doesn't push that message, then other people interpret the media and create the message for it. So, for example, you know, people say that with, you know, even Lord of the Rings or anything else, right? And they take what's in a lot of cases like a message about friendship or, you know, the power of family, and then they elevate it to like being again like these like wedge social issues. So what I think the problem is with, like, because you had, for example, Kylo Ren in like the newer movies. I think that people generally liked Kylo Ren. They liked the story of the character. Now, they might not have liked the movies in general, but like I would say that personally people, you know, I would say a lot of people liked him, right? He was all right. Yeah, he was all right. And I think the reason why is because they allow that character to make mistakes and to do bad things. But I think the issue is that writers are afraid of allowing characters that are played by like minorities or females to do bad things or to be incompetent because they're worried that people could interpret that as a message to what that writer or what that group of people thinks about that actual group in real life. I think that's what's been happening. That's not true at all. Okay. That's what I think. Yeah, I think it is happening. I think that's exactly what's happening.
Didn't get to see a Jedi Wookiee fight. The budget. Listen, guys, they only had $180 million. What do you expect? And after sitting through 27 minutes and 11 seconds of an episode that felt like it was 2 hours long, you would think this Disney Star Wars intricately written story would lead to something. After we had two girls crushing on each other, pronouns in space, and a Wookiee Jedi killed off screen. Now, Milo Ren shows up and pushes a bunch of Jedi. And the big mystery to the Ffivs and
Wow. Jesus. Oh my God.
tens of people who are actually interested in the show is, who is Smilo Ren? Is it Asian Ezra Miller? It could be, but I'm leaning towards something like this.
It's a girl?
Credit to Disney Star Wars.
Keep in mind, that's exactly what Eowyn did in Lord of the Rings Return of the King, whenever she killed the Witch King. And this goes back to what I said before about trust, that people nowadays don't trust Western studios and Western writers to write a story that's authentic, and they assume that every story that's being written is being written in the context of some sort of message that's trying to be spread. This is exactly the same thing I was talking about.
For not making an episode as bad as the previous. The good news with The Acolyte, we're halfway through the season. The bad news, we're only halfway through the season. And just when you think things couldn't get worse for Lucasfilm, they do. Series star Amandla Stenberg, who has the amazing ability to play two characters exactly the same way with the exact same haircut, decided to come out with a diss track against Star Wars fans. A diss track that Amandla feels so strongly about that she's copyright claiming absolutely everyone who posts it on X or YouTube. In what's likely an industry first, a TV show star has written and released a song and a music video complete with dance moves in response to racist backlash against the show.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for
backlash.
So this is kind of what I'm talking about before, about how, like, I think that a lot of journalists, like the Hollywood Reporter, nobody is actually going to criticize and say, like, no one is ever going to be saying and, like, criticizing the show for, like, for example, anything that I'm talking about, like, that I've talked about with this video. They're never going to bring any of that up. And the issue is that a lot of people think the way that I do, even if you think that it's wrong. It's very clear that a lot of people think like I do. Many, many people think the way that I do. But why is it that this viewpoint is not represented in any sort of real, like, journalistic outlet, outside of, like, maybe Fox News or, like, a few other, like, random ones? The reason why is because all of these different outlets are working basically together to push the same message. And I think that's also what's made a lot of people upset and annoyed. This is why I think people don't trust journalists anymore, is because journalists are not really trying to spread truth, they're trying to spread a message. Tinfoil hat? It is a tinfoil hat, but I think that it's true.
Against the show.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah.
Let's see if it pays off for them.
A song with a chorus, and I quote, "We so bored, don't fuck with yo discourse." Yet, you made an entire song about it. Now, most of this song is in response to End Wokeness putting up an older interview with Trevor Noah where Amandla Stenberg says she wants to make white people cry. That had nothing to do with The Acolyte. Because taking things out of context to support a narrative doesn't help anyone. I want you to remember that. Amandla Stenberg, the adult pretender who's worth $3 million, speaks mostly of oppression in her song, but she also says this. Speaking of which, journalists, I'm looking at you. Did you forget it's your job to provide the truth? Spreading divisiveness, mining the metrics and date. Seem you gave up on all your ethics for money and views, and I can tell you that people are tired. Yes, they are, because you can absolutely apply what you said there to Disney, the company you work.
Well, I think that's true, right? And so, this is the issue, is that if a journalist or somebody like this steps out of line and criticizes something that's supposed to be above the criticism, because it's like, you know, any criticism of this is seen as racist, like, then this person gets, you know, fired or removed from the industry.
And the kids don't trust anything they view.
Yeah.
And you're right.
They
you
shouldn't.
don't have to worry about that with the Acolyte because no kids are watching it. Another
No one
lyric
is.
from the song by Adult Pretender worth $3 million, Amandla Stenberg. And now you listening, I'ma tell you something fascinating. They spinning woke, bastardizing it, and appropriating it. Last I recall, woke was something we created. Did you create it, Amandla? Speak truth to power. I don't hate to break this to you, Amandla, and anyone else at Lucasfilm, because apparently you need to hear this again. You are the power. You work for one of the biggest entertainment companies in the world who owns ABC.
It is very weird that people who are, you know, somebody said like her dad was a millionaire. She has like a lead role in a Disney show. She's a multimillionaire herself. You're not being oppressed. Like, that's not the way it works. What are you talking about?
ESPN, Hulu. They bought Fox for $72 billion. They're a little influential. They're also, and forgive me if you've heard this one before,
Yeah.
the same company that thanked a concentration camp in China for Mulan.
Disney, what's this here? Disney criticized for filming Mulan in China's Xinjiang province. Oh, yeah.
Covered up Chadwick Boseman's face on the Black Panther poster.
Yeah,
With
this is how much Disney really cares about racial issues. So this is, maybe you didn't know this, they covered Black Panther, like Chadwick Boseman, they covered his face in order to have the movie posters be put up in China. So like Disney actually doesn't care about any of these social issues at all. If being a racist and like if Hitler had won World War II,